So I'll start here with this is the desktop on our compliance management accelerator, and as part of the ISO standard, one of the requirements is that we lay out our top level processes, and what I'm going to talk about today is mainly audits, but I just wanted to demonstrate how we have mapped this out from our top level process down to the different processes that lie underneath, and the requirements for internal audits are in section 9.1 of ISO 9000 and of other standards too, such as ISO 14000, ISO 45001, ISO 27001. All of these standards go to the same section for internal audits. And the way we mapped it out was we went down one further level, and we have what we call our compliance management system model here, which really is the different sections of the standard that the quality manager is pretty much, are the processes that he owns as part of the standard. And then we have a business tag here for managing audits. And what we did was we, inside each of these elements, we put a statement just as to what is required from the standard, and then some level of detail on what the purpose of that is, for the organization. And I'm not going to go into the details of what's in there, but that's basically what that is. And underneath managing audits, you can see there are three different workflow diagrams here, these little blue buttons, and then also this one here, which is actually the requirement of the standard. So that breaks out into the actual standard itself. But if I go in here, I'm just going to walk through these diagrams quickly, and then I'll show you practically how this actually works in the system, in the tool itself. So we have a model or a workflow diagram called Create Audits, and the requirement in the standard is that you have an audit program. It doesn't say it has to be annual, but it says an audit program. So we develop an audit program, and then from that audit program, we create our internal audit plan for each audit that we are going to conduct. And again, inside each of these, it will give you some level of detail as to what's required. We also have, if outside of our annual audit program, there may be a need for a special audit, such as something like a safety audit, or supplier audit, or some other customer audit, and that also goes directly into the same workflow diagram for internal audits. Then superfluous to that is a need for an external audit, such as a registrar audit or some such audit. That brings us to the model for conducting our internal audits. And I based when you open these up, you're going to see some direction, or in some cases it'll be a shall statement, right? Because that shall statement would align with the standard and what the requirements of the standard are, or maybe align with your own process. And what we have done here is, the auditor raises the actual, submits the audit plan to the process owner. The process owner would look at that, agree to it, and it would move along through the model basically with all the checks and balances, and the audit will be conducted, confirming the findings. And this here, it sort of doubles as the closing meeting of an audit. This here doubles as the opening meeting of an audit. Some companies like to have that meetings. Other companies just notify the auditor and get agreement on times and dates. And the same here. That confirmation of audit findings can be done as an individual situation, depending on the company and the organization that's conducting the audit and what your internal processes are. That then that moves further into the next section, which is called reporting on the audit. And again, we have some requirements here for reviewing the audit with the quality manager, making sure that the auditor has conducted the audit correctly and that there was nothing left out, and then reviewing it with the preliminary audit findings with the process owner before issuing the report, then generating the findings, and that goes out into another the next area, which is raising non-conformances, or what we call OFIs or OFIs, opportunities for improvement in the audit. And I'm not going to get into the details of these maps because that's for another day. So that's basically how the workflows flow out. But if we go back, let me go back to the tool here and show you how that works in practicality. So if we go here, we have under our compliance tab, we have a tag here called Manage Audit Programs. And we've built out an audit program here for the 2022 internal audits. And that audit program covers every aspect of ISO 9001 in our case, but it can be for any standard. And we have, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 audits that are laid out here. And each of these audits has its own audit plan. So I'm just going to look at an example of one, right? And this example is for the audit for customer focus, and the tool gives the audit its own sequence number and the last modified, and who's the lead auditor, who's the actual auditor if there's two people doing the audit, and then the auditee, and also the audit date, the due date, when the audit was verified, and then other pertinent information. What are the processes that you're actually auditing when you're doing the audit? You can connect that right to the audit. So if I click on that, it will go directly back to the process that is part of the audit. Also, the standard regulations, they're also here so that you can refer easily to what the standard is. So making sure that you're covering all of the requirements. And then if you had any, if you have a list of questions or a checklist, you can either type them in here, or you can, as we did, attach an external document with the checklist. In this case, there was a non-conformance that was raised for the audit. So if you click on that, then you can go to the actual non-conformance, and you can manage the non-conformance through here, and then go into the corrective action that was actually raised from that non-conformance, and so on and so forth. So everything is interlinked so that it's really simple to reference one thing from the other. And in my experience from other companies I've been in, all of this stuff, or a lot of it, is all separate. And you either are attaching spreadsheets, you're attaching documents, Word documents, or you're creating other means of making sure that you have all this data and information. But when you have an external auditor come in and you're able to go into your audit and show them just in a very simple format like this, how you've first of all complied to the standard, you've complied to your own processes, you've audited the required items, and you have all the conclusions of the audit plus your checklist and everything all in one place. That's invaluable, really, from that perspective, having all that data together. And anyone who's experienced that side of things will understand what I mean. You can go in here. I'm just going to show quickly the template that we use to do this. So, it's very easily set up. The audit date, the due date of the audit when it's actually due in the system, who the lead auditor is, the auditor, and you can put several people here. The auditee, again, you can put several people here if that's the case.
You can see they took me to task here as the auditee.
It was grueling. The target, again, that is any processes that are associated with this particular audit. You can attach them here, and you can also attach external documents here as well. And the regulations, if there's regulations from any of the standards, they can be attached right in here into the audit. Again, your questions, which is really your checklist, is attached here. And then when you go into the handling section of the audit, this is where you attach your non-conformances. So if there's any non-conformances raised, they're attached in here very simply. Same with change requests, which is what we use when we have an opportunity for improvement, something that's an observation in the audit that requires attention, but is not an actual failure of a requirement. Any other associated documents, so external documents, you attach them here. And then there's a place for actually putting in your audit report, your conclusion in the audit, what you actually found, and referring them, of course, back to your non-conformances, and a verification text. So if you remember back when we did when I showed the map where the quality manager would verify that the audit was conducted satisfactorily, that's what this section is for, and then whoever verifies it and the actual time they verified it. And just really quick, I'm just going to show the governance workflow that manages all that. So this is a very simple governance workflow where the auditor prepares the audit, announces it, and then the execution of the audit, and then verification and closure. And there are some loop backs if the verification doesn't go well and the audit hasn't been conducted properly. That can be sent back to either execution, depending on what the issue is, or it can be actually sent all the way back to the beginning to start all over again because the audit did not meet the criteria or the standards that you wanted it to meet. And then, of course, closure of the audit. So that's in a very quick session what we built out in the Compliance Management Accelerator for how we manage our audit program, manage our audits, and conduct our audits and report and close our audits.
So one of the things we've tried to do with this accelerator is implement as much automation into the processes as we can. The governance workflow for the audit is a pretty simple one. Much more complicated for some of our management review processes and things like that in terms of steps and who's approving, who's reviewing, et cetera, et cetera. So, but the net effect is we've been able to shorten our time to compliance, time to getting registered, I think pretty significantly. And the actual external auditor who came in to review this made some comments about how simple it was to find things, and the fact that we were able to track and trace everything we need to do with regards to the standards. So taking it beyond the out of the box, from that QualiWare provides, but the accelerator here is something that with as I mentioned in earlier meetings, a little bit of configuration time, Government of Canada, because of our contracts with them, we would be providing that.
So it looks like we have a couple of people who have questions. So Par?
I was wondering, have you sort of felt you would like to have policies as well as regulations? So for instance, if you would like to make an audit and not check an ISO regulation, but a TBS policy, if my understanding is correct, you wouldn't be able to do that with QualiWare standard.
So Kevin, if you want to answer that.
Sure. I mean, we have built this specific around an ISO standard, different ISO, or really any kind of formalized standard. I mean, if you can define what your target regulations are, really these things, you're going to have target processes or target policies. There's nothing stopping you from using this as a, with a minimum of change, to reviewing everything from processes to demonstrating compliance with policies. Yeah, there's, I mean, the change to add that to this would be very small. We decided to start first with specifics around ISO, but very definitely process compliance and policy compliance are two areas of focus for us. So that will be next on the enhancement list for Gerry once we get through our own registration.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Par. Kevin, did you have a question?
It was the same question that Par gave.
Okay.
But I'll just add to it that, like, whenever I look at the audit reports that are done internally, they almost always are dealing with a potential wide range of documents that needs to be complied to. And policies are one of them, and sometimes there's lower level documents. Now, what we're doing in our area is we're using the policy object for everything, whether it's a true policy or something down to a directive or a procedure. But we had these questions before, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it today. That is something I think that we would like to look into.
Sure.
Okay.
Our goal was to try to, as much, at least with this iteration of the Accelerator, was try to, as much as possible, keep it out of the box, without a whole lot of custom configuration changes. And I think we've been pretty successful at that. Obviously we've created new governance workflows and things like that, but, in terms of templates and, attributes, there's very, very little that's customized here. So there's very, very little impact or delay in somebody new taking this and implementing it in their environment. A variation on this to address those other types of things, more process renewal and process audit and policy, again, that would be, might require a little bit more work, in terms of adding attributes on a couple of templates, but not a whole lot. And it will be on our planning target list for the next iteration of this.
Appreciate you all joining and hope you found it interesting.